But the one thing that is very clear, the Chicago Bears are done with Chicago. It's a wrap.
Brandon Johnson just fumbled the Chicago Bears right out of the city where they've played for more than 100 years. The team issued a statement Thursday night via the Associated Press that closes the door on Chicago. And the mayor's phone calls to Bears president Kevin Warren went unanswered for weeks. If you're a Bears fan who's been walking into Soldier Field your entire life, this is the moment it became real. The franchise is done with Chicago. It's a wrap.
Despite a suggestion that the Bears have been dangling the possibility of building a new stadium in Chicago, the team has issued a clear statement closing the door on remaining in the city where they have played for more than 100 years. Quote, the Chicago Bears have exhausted every opportunity to stay in Chicago, which was our initial goal, the team said in a statement issued on Thursday via the Associated Press.
That statement hit late Thursday night. Florio wrote about it the next morning. And the language the Bears used wasn't subtle. It was a public execution of every last shred of hope that Chicago had left. Before I show you the 3 locations that are actually in play and why one of them is about to win, I need to walk you through the political war that just cost Chicago its football team. Because the infighting between Illinois Governor JB Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson might be even uglier than the relocation itself. Governor Pritzker went public earlier this week saying Johnson doesn't have a plan, doesn't have urgency, doesn't have a clue, and now the Bears have made it official. There is not a viable site in the city of Chicago. The only 2 locations under consideration are Arlington Heights, Illinois, and Hammond, Indiana. The decision is expected between those 2 in early spring or early summer. Indiana is ready to roll. Illinois is scrambling to put together a package for Arlington Heights. And Chicago? Chicago just got left at the altar in front of the entire league.
Brandon Johnson, JB Pritzker the other day come out and said Johnson doesn't really have a plan for this. We've heard about him not accepting or not answering phone calls from Kevin Warren from the Chicago Bears. No urgency in the situation. And now he has fumbled the Bears right out of the city.
Let that sink in. The Chicago Bears have exhausted every opportunity to stay in Chicago, which was our initial goal. That's the official statement. The team that has defined the city's sports identity for over a century just told the mayor and the taxpayers that they tried everything and Chicago couldn't deliver. Now here's what makes this even more brutal. The Bears didn't just wake up Thursday morning and decide to burn the bridge. This has been building for months. We've heard reporting that Mayor Johnson wasn't returning phone calls from Kevin Warren, the Bears president. No urgency, no plan. And Governor Pritzker, who controls state-level funding and tax incentives, publicly threw Johnson under the bus, saying the mayor fumbled the negotiation. That's not spin. That's the governor of Illinois telling the media that Chicago's mayor blew it, and the timing couldn't be worse for the city. The Bears are finally exciting again. A young roster, a playmaking quarterback, a head coach the fan base believes in. This was supposed to be the moment Chicago rallied around the franchise. Instead, the franchise is packing its bags and heading to the suburbs or across state lines.
Indiana is ready to roll. Illinois is working on a package that would help the Bears build a new stadium on the property the team owns in Arlington Heights. And the Bears seem very intent on building in one of those 2 locations and nowhere else.
Governor Pritzker said Johnson doesn't have a plan. That quote is going to haunt the mayor for the rest of his career. Because when the Bears officially announce Arlington Heights or Hammond as their new home, and they will, every headline is going to point back to this moment. The moment a mayor in a long line of failed Chicago mayors lost the Bears. Now let's talk about what happens next. The Bears gave us 2 names, Arlington Heights and Hammond. But there's a third possibility nobody is talking about yet, and it's the one that could flip this entire story on its head if the political winds shift fast enough. I'm going to walk you through all 3. I'm going to tell you why 2 of them make sense, why one of them is a long shot, and which one I think the Bears are actually going to pick. Because the decision isn't just about stadiums and tax breaks, it's about legacy, control, and which politicians are willing to write the biggest check. Let's start with the least likely option and work our way to the one I'm putting my name on.
Actually, the most interesting part about all this is the infighting now between one Illinois governor, JB Pritzker, and one failed mayor of Chicago, in a long line of failed mayors of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. Their feud might be the most interesting part of all this.
Option 1, Hammond, Indiana. This is the chaos pick. The one that makes every Chicago politician sweat and every Indiana taxpayer nervous. Hammond is a city of about 75,000 people just across the state line, 25 miles southeast of downtown Chicago, and Indiana is ready to roll. That's not me speculating. That's what the transcript says. Indiana has a package ready. They want an NFL franchise. They want the tax revenue, the jobs, the national spotlight every Sunday. And they're willing to give the Bears everything Illinois won't. Here's why it makes sense. Indiana has no state income tax on the table for players. That's a massive recruiting edge when you're trying to convince free agents to sign. The state legislature can move faster than Illinois. There's less red tape, less bureaucracy, less infighting. And Hammond is close enough to Chicago that the fan base can still drive to games without feeling like they've lost the team entirely. But here's the problem. Hammond doesn't have the infrastructure. You're talking about building a multi-billion-dollar stadium complex in a city that doesn't have the roads, the hotels, the transit system to handle 70,000 people showing up 16 times a year. The Bears would have to fund or co-fund a ton of that. And that eats into the financial advantage Indiana is offering. Plus, there's the optics. The Chicago Bears playing in Indiana is a PR nightmare. It's a humiliation for the city, for the state, for every politician who let it happen. The Bears know that. They're using Hammond as leverage to squeeze more money out of Illinois, but I don't think they actually want to pull the trigger. Verdict: Hammond is the nuclear option. It's on the table to scare Arlington Heights into sweeter terms, but unless Illinois completely collapses in negotiations, I don't see the Bears leaving the state.
The new statement is stronger than the statement the team issued on Wednesday to the Chicago Tribune. Quote, the team has been clear to the city of Chicago and state leaders there are only two viable stadium locations under consideration, Arlington Heights and Hammond, and the decision is expected between the two in early spring or later in this spring or early summer.
Option 2, Arlington Heights, Illinois. This is the front runner. This is the one the Bears have been circling for years. The Bears already own the property in Arlington Heights. They bought the old Arlington Park racetrack site back in 2023, 326 acres, one of the largest undeveloped parcels in the Chicago suburbs. The location is perfect. It's 30 miles northwest of downtown, right off major highways, accessible from every corner of Chicagoland. And it's in Illinois, which means the Bears can still call themselves the Chicago Bears without the name feeling like a lie. Illinois is working on a package right now. Governor Pritzker controls the state-level funding, and he's motivated. He doesn't want to be the governor who lost the Bears to Indiana, so he's pushing a deal that includes tax increment financing, infrastructure upgrades, maybe even some direct subsidies to get the stadium built. Here's why Arlington Heights works. The Bears control the land. They control the timeline. They can build exactly the kind of stadium and entertainment district they want. Restaurants, hotels, retail, maybe even a practice facility and team headquarters all on the same campus. It's a billion-dollar real estate play that turns the Bears into a year-round destination, not just a football team. And the fan base can live with it. Yeah, it's the suburbs. Yeah, it's not Soldier Field, but it's still Chicagoland. It's still Illinois. You can still drive there in under an hour from most of the metro area. It doesn't feel like betrayal the way Hammond does, but there's one big obstacle: property taxes. Arlington Heights has been fighting the Bears over the tax assessment on that land. The village wants to tax the property at its full development value. The Bears want it taxed as vacant land until the stadium is built. That dispute has been dragging on for months, and it's one of the reasons the Bears haven't pulled the trigger yet. If Pritzker can broker a deal that gets the village to back off on the property tax fight and delivers state funding for infrastructure, Arlington Heights is a done deal. The Bears get their stadium, their entertainment district, their control. Illinois keeps the team. Everybody wins except Brandon Johnson, who gets to watch the Bears leave Chicago from his office window. Verdict: this is the smart money pick. Arlington Heights checks every box except one, and that one box is solvable if the politicians want it badly enough.
By the way, what looks like a good young Bears team with an exciting coach and a playmaking quarterback. And now the city is losing the team out of there. Wow. Be careful who you vote for.
Option 3, and this is the one nobody is talking about yet. A last-second Hail Mary from the city of Chicago. A new site, a new mayor, or a new deal that brings the Bears back to the table. Here's why I'm even mentioning this. The Bears' statement said there is not a viable site in the city. Not there will never be a viable site. Not we're done negotiating forever. They said there isn't one right now. That leaves the door cracked open. Barely, but it's open. If Brandon Johnson gets replaced, either by recall, resignation, or losing re-election, and a new mayor comes in with a legitimate plan and the political capital to execute it, the Bears might listen. Because at the end of the day, playing in the city of Chicago is worth more than playing in Arlington Heights. It's worth more in brand value, in media rights, in national perception. But that would require a miracle. It would require a new stadium site that doesn't exist yet. It would require billions in public funding that Chicago doesn't have. And it would require the Bears to believe that the city won't screw them over again the way Johnson just did. I'm not holding my breath, but I'm putting it on the board because crazier things have happened in Chicago politics. Verdict? Long shot. Maybe 5% chance. But if a new mayor gets elected in the next 12 months and comes to the table with a real plan, don't be shocked if the Bears take one more meeting.
But the one thing that is very clear, the Chicago Bears are done with Chicago. It's a wrap.
So here's my call. I'm putting my name on this. The Chicago Bears are moving to Arlington Heights, Illinois. The announcement comes sometime between April and July of this year. Governor Pritzker brokers a deal with the village of Arlington Heights that caps the property taxes and delivers state funding for roads, transit, and utilities. The Bears break ground in late 2025 or early 2026. The new stadium opens for the 2028 or 2029 season. Hammond was always a negotiating tactic. It was never real. The Bears wanted to scare Illinois into giving them everything they wanted, and it worked. Indiana played its role perfectly. But the Bears are not leaving the state. And Chicago? Chicago is done. Brandon Johnson fumbled this so badly that even if a new mayor comes in tomorrow with a blank check, the Bears won't trust the city again. The relationship is cooked. Now here's the part that's going to make some of you mad. I think this is the right move for the Bears. I know that's not what Chicago fans want to hear. I know Soldier Field has history, has tradition, has 100 years of memories, but Soldier Field is also the smallest stadium in the NFL. It's outdated. It's landlocked. The Bears don't own it, they rent it from the Chicago Park District, which means they don't control their own revenue streams. Arlington Heights gives them everything Soldier Field doesn't. It gives them a modern stadium, a massive entertainment district, full control over their business, and a location that's still accessible to the entire fan base. It's the right call, even if it's a painful one. The counter-argument is that the Bears are abandoning their identity, that the Chicago Bears should play in Chicago, not the suburbs. That moving to Arlington Heights is a betrayal of the fans who've been showing up to Soldier Field in December for decades. I get it, I do, but the Bears tried to stay in Chicago. They exhausted every opportunity, that's their words, not mine. And the city couldn't deliver. So at some point you have to stop blaming the franchise and start blaming the politicians who let this happen. Here's my timeline. If the Bears don't announce Arlington Heights by the end of June, I'm wrong. If they're still negotiating with Chicago or Hammond past July, then something broke in the deal I'm not seeing. But I don't think that happens. I think Pritzker gets this done, the Bears get their stadium, and Chicago gets left behind. Remember that statement we opened with? The Chicago Bears have exhausted every opportunity to stay in Chicago, which was our initial goal. That's not just a press release. That's a eulogy. The Bears are telling Chicago it's over. And unless something drastic changes in the next 90 days, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Despite a suggestion that the Bears have been dangling the possibility of building a new stadium in Chicago, the team has issued a clear statement closing the door on remaining in the city where they have played for more than 100 years. Quote, the Chicago Bears have exhausted every opportunity to stay in Chicago, which was our initial goal, the team said in a statement issued on Thursday via the Associated Press.
One more thing before we wrap. The political fallout from this is going to be nuclear. Governor Pritzker is going to take a victory lap if he lands the Bears in Arlington Heights. He's going to campaign on it, fundraise on it, and use it to bury Brandon Johnson's career. And Johnson? Johnson is going to spend the rest of his time in office trying to explain how he lost the Bears. This isn't just about football. This is about legacy. This is about which politician gets credit for keeping the Bears in Illinois and which one gets blamed for losing them to the suburbs. And right now, Pritzker is winning and Johnson is drowning. Next video, I'm breaking down the 3 quarterbacks the Bears should be looking at if they want to maximize this new stadium era. Because Caleb Williams is exciting, but the roster around him has holes that need filling before they move into that new building. That video drops early next week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.
Brandon Johnson, JB Pritzker the other day come out and said Johnson doesn't really have a plan for this. We've heard about him not accepting or not answering phone calls from Kevin Warren from the Chicago Bears. No urgency in the situation. And now he has fumbled the Bears right out of the city.
All right, here's your job. Pick one, Arlington Heights, Hammond, or a miracle Chicago comeback. Drop the location in the comments. No paragraphs, no hedging, just the name. I'll pin the best take. Stay dangerous. I'll see you next time.
Indiana is ready to roll. Illinois is working on a package that would help the Bears build a new stadium on the property the team owns in Arlington Heights. And the Bears seem very intent on building in one of those 2 locations and nowhere else. Actually, the most interesting part about all this is the infighting now between one Illinois governor, JB Pritzker, and one failed mayor of Chicago, in a long line of failed mayors of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. Their feud might be the most interesting part of all this. The new statement is stronger than the statement the team issued on Wednesday to the Chicago Tribune. Quote, the team has been clear to the city of Chicago and state leaders there are only 2 viable stadium locations under consideration, Arlington Heights and Hammond, and the decision is expected between the 2 in early spring or later in this spring or early summer. By the way, what looks like a good young Bears team with an exciting coach and a playmaking quarterback. And now the city is losing the team out of there. Wow. Be careful who you vote for